Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at the fabulous Furry Freak Brothers in The Idiots Abroad, Part 3, otherwise known as Freak Brothers number 10. Of course, this is by Gilbert Shelton and Paul Mavrides once again, and this is the epic conclusion of this three-part epic. And once again, beautiful color. Look at these great colors on this. All this detritus that Gilbert Shelton loves to draw. The inside front cover is kind of like a recap, but it's kind of done in an interesting way, as you may remember. And we see the fabulous Furry Freak Brothers in the distant future, even though they look pretty much the same. Freddy's reading this Freak Brothers comic, and he says, "Oh, I forgot all about this. Remember the time we flew down to Bogota to sell guns to right-wing anti-communists in Central America? And we made all that money, and we invested it in war bonds and nuclear weapons futures." And Phineas and Franklin are like, "That never happened. What are you talking about?" And they basically storm over to Rip-Off Press. They're like, "What are those guys making up about us? Have they sold out to the ultra-conservatives?" So they walk over there, and now it's just a little storefront. In all the other times we've seen Rip-Off Press, it's like this huge skyscraper, as if it's the Time Life building or something. And when they go in there, there's no one there except this weird little, I think it's a dude hiding in this robot. He says, "I am computer boy. Follow me." Nope. It's the inside back cover. It continues. And we see the Computune 8000, if you remember that from the last two issues. So this supposedly writes all of the stories in the Freak Brothers and prints them up too. Here's our latest bestseller, Hindu Fundamentalist Vigilante Terrorist Gerbils from Black Holes in Space Sometime in the Future. And obviously, you know, this came out in 1987, so making fun of the whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles craze. And there's these gerbils there that I guess are the writers. And they show us how Freak Brothers comics are made. Apparently there's this like almost dollhouse with these little Freak Brothers robots in it. And they make the robots do little scenarios. This video camera tapes them. And then it's turned into a comic book. But they're like, the place is full of cockroaches. Which to these little robots, they're humongous, right? So as they leave, Franklin says, "That explains those giant cockroaches that keep showing up in Freak Brothers stories." And Phineas says, "How do you explain these giant gerbils then?" And we see this like kaiju-sized gerbil crushing the city, marauding through the city. So, kind of fun little introduction. But once again, guys, we got this beautiful color. Just look how nice this page looks. It's just gorgeous. There's just a title page, you know, kind of warming us up. It's almost like a second cover. And I believe Guy Caldwell assisted on the coloring for pages 3 through 9. The rest is all Mavrides. And Guy Caldwell, we'll see in a second, is more painterly. It looks like the way he colors. But this is more standard. But I think that looks just great. All the primary colors. This is so nice. Oh, this is a great page. The cast of characters and a one-sentence synopsis of the story so far. This literally is one sentence. It's the biggest run-on sentence ever. But it tells us everything that's come to pass. All these really nice drawings of all the characters. Finally found out who this dude is, the military dude. Colonel Cornbelt. Apparently he's the American liaison to Europe. So that's why he was in Britain, commanding all those soldiers. I was a little confused. We're even going to get the Loch Ness Monster in here. So, right where we left off last issue, Freddy is in the middle of the desert. him and Franklin are now slaves of Phineas, who's the richest man on Earth. Freddy is looking at this newspaper, and apparently Colonel Cornbelt and all the colonels, or a bunch of colonels, took over the world. A military coup type thing. There's no more countries left, and no China, no Russia. There's just the new era. Everyone calls it. So Phineas goes to one of his little tents in the desert, and they set up all the broadcasting stuff. Because his religion that he made up, what is it called? Fundaligionism. It's taken over the world. He has a 24-hour-a-day TV station that not only has 8 hours a day of him like begging for money, basically, and brainwashing people, but they even show car races and chihuahuas. There's all kinds of crazy programming. We see little cutaways of normal people. Everyone's being suckered into this. They're all giving their life savings to Phineas all over the world. Look how much stuff is packed on this page. That's crazy. Oh, this page is so nice. Look at that. That's a poster. And we just see Phineas preaching to the choir, literally. You know, talking about his crazy fake religion. That's some gorgeous stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have mentioned this is where Guy Caldwell starts. And you can see that. See how, like, that's more, I don't know, painterly. I love this, the newspaper. I forgot to mention how it looks all faded, you know? Like faded newsprint. So they trek through the desert, and they get to Phineas's mansion. Phineas informs them that if they want to get out of their slavehood, they have to like take all these classes to become useful to the religion. Look at this here. Freddy and Franklin are all buff because they've been carrying him around so much, I guess. So this is where the comic gets a little odd to me. The next day they start their studies. Look at this page. This is almost like 6 comic pages. Like each one is almost a comics page. This is just so insane. And this is why it's weird. So basically we just see Franklin and Freddy beginning their studies. And it's just like a long list of everything they're studying. Without really any jokes. They're literally just telling us what they're studying. Maybe it's like that Monty Python. You know, Monty Python just thought it was funny to list things sometimes, like the cheese shop sketch, just listing every type of thing. But I mean, that's John Cleese doing it, so it's funny. This is just literally just a list of everything they study. Philosophy, history, literature, every kind of science, medicine, all the philosophers they're studying, the great thinkers, Gandhi, Buddha, Machiavelli, Voltaire, all the languages they're learning. And this is insane. These 6 word balloons are just the teacher telling them all the languages they're going to learn. There's not really even a joke attempted in it. It's just he's listing every language he can think of, even like Esperanto, Mayan, Pidgin. And then we see them learning cryptology, grammar, public relations, computer skills, martial arts, ballroom dancing, painting, cooking. Just a list. It really seems like Gilbert Shelton came down with a case of OCD or something. This is really kind of odd. Especially the fact that there's really no humorous intent. So when they take their civics class, we get a little peek behind how this new world government works. Basically, all these colonels got together, took over all the governments, along with Andre the Hyena, the terrorist, and his people. And they executed anyone above the rank of colonel. And There's no more television allowed. Obviously, no freedom of speech, except for Phineas's channel. They allow Phineas's channel. He's almost like the church of the state, the one church allowed. Supposedly, there's no war, there's no regional conflicts, and no unemployment because everyone is hired by the government. Even electric rock and roll is no longer allowed because there's so many nuclear missiles everywhere. They're afraid the vibrations might set them off. So the world's kind of on the brink. But Phineas is sitting pretty. So Franklin and Freddie pass their final exam, and they're no longer slaves. Now we see the one world government. Colonel Cornbelt and Andre the Hyena seem to be like the two oligarchs. They're kind of like running the show. But all these other colonels, including Colonel Gallito, who is the right-wing junta guy we saw in Central America, who, if you remember, Franklin stole his car, his Cadillac limousine. So they just bring in all these characters that they've been introducing. They come up with a plan. They see Phineas on TV and they say, call up Father Phineas. We'll make him an offer. Phineas puts Freddie and Franklin in charge of the Father Phineas Personality Posters Division. So they're in charge of making posters and selling them to the faithful. Once again, just all this ornate detail showing us the whole factory and how it operates. I like these posters. It's like it's Phineas on Snoopy's doghouse laying back like Snoopy did. That famous Bob Dylan graphic design, but it's Phineas. Phineas is the Mona Lisa. So I guess the new era leaders, they basically said, you're going to be the emperor of the earth, and you're going to have a big coronation soon. And finally, Franklin and Freddie have had enough. They're going to take down Phineas. But first, they got to go on this road trip. And we see them traveling through all these countries, and we see the differences that this new era government has made. They're in Tel Aviv in Israel. People are starving, fighting for food. But all these pilgrims are headed their way. They see all these pilgrims heading to the coronation. Beirut still has a 14-sided civil war, new era or not. So apparently there is war in this world and regional conflicts. There's also slavery becomes widespread. I guess because Phineas, when he made his fundamentalism, he used all of the world's religions, kind of mishmashed them together. And in the Old Testament, it says slavery is cool. So he figures, yeah, bring that back. And this is another weird one. This isn't just my opinion. It's almost like he's not even trying to be funny. It's not like he's telling jokes or anything. He's just showing us this world, almost like a science fiction tale. We're seeing how everything's changed. They're in Venice. All so beautifully drawn, though. But, I don't know, very odd. But once again, it's another listing. Just kind of obsessive listing of things. Still, they're traveling, showing us a little bit of every country. Finally, though, they make it to Barcelona. And why? Because if you remember, that's where Pablo Picasso has his fortress. We met him in the first part. And they tell Pablo Picasso their plan. They're like, we're going to fuck up that coronation. Pablo Picasso, though, has other plans. He knows a nuclear war is coming, or pretty likely to come. So he's built this crazy invention, the Sky Farm. And look at this. Once again, Exhibit C in the trial of Gilbert Shelton's mind. This is so obsessive. He works out all the nuts and bolts of this crazy invention, even like showing little cutaway diagrams, living quarters. And it's not really funny. There's no jokes in here. It's like, oh, that's a funny thing he put in there. It's just really as if, this could be a possible invention. Basically what Picasso did is he made this floating platform that's all like see-through. It's all see-through plastic, so it's almost invisible. And I think it even has non-radar reflecting surfaces. It's held up by all these hot air balloons. And what it does is it's above the cloud cover. So even if there's a nuclear winter, they can still grow food above the clouds. There's all like gardens in here and soil. And then I guess every now and then they pull it down and harvest the crops and then send it back up. But look at this, it's crazy. It's amazing. It's like really impressive. But this issue is so odd to me. So he asked them to work on it, and they say, "No, we gotta fuck up the emperor's coronation." And Picasso says, "Oh, that's a shame, but here's some equipment." He gives them some guns. So now they're back on the road, pretending to be pilgrims, and they're heading for the coronation. So we cut away to Phineas and Cornbelt and Andre the Hyena, and they're telling him the real deal. They're like, "You're just going to be our mouthpiece. You're going to be, the figurehead. You're going to listen to everything we say and do what we say." And he says, "I'm the richest man in the world." And Cornbelt says, "Well, we control the currency, so fuck that." And Andre the Hyena just says, if you side against me, you're going to get a bullet in the head." So Phineas realized he's been duped. Back to Freddie and Franklin. So apparently this coronation is right near the Loch Ness, and they're scuba diving through it. And Freddie finds the nuclear bomb disguised as a soccer ball. If you remember in the first issue, he had that, and it rolled down into Loch Ness. I just thought that was the last we ever saw of it. But of course, it's Gilbert Shelton, so he's not going to drop the ball on that one. We also realize in the first page it said, "The Loch Ness Monster's in here." And apparently they're 1 inch long. There's like a dozen of them. And it's just so that's kind of funny. But that was like the first joke in a while. So the coronation is happening. And as soon as Phineas gets the microphone, he goes off script. And he basically, he tells everyone the truth. And he says he's not going to be their puppet. And it's almost like he has he wakes up from his craziness. Because he tells the people there's only one type of person that's more dangerous than these authoritarian thugs. And that's a ranting religious demagogue who takes advantage of the stupidity of nice people and their superstitions in order to make a lot of money. And then I don't understand this. I guess Phineas isn't really fat. All this time, he's been lugging around all of these crazy possessions under his cloak. Of course, obsessively drawn by Shelton and Marita's bongos, a blender, a power drill. Just so much stuff is drawn in there. It really seems obsessive. This is crazy. Also, he basically said, this is kind of funny, he says, "I don't even like money. I'm just a poor old hippie." And he wants his 2 friends back. So all of a sudden, speaking of which, the 2 friends show up. And Freddie holds the atom bomb over his head. All of a sudden, Phineas's followers break through the barricades and storm the podium where all the bigwigs are. And a huge melee breaks out. Freak Brothers escape. They run away. Oh my God, guys, look at this panel. This is nuts. I think Jeff Darrow would have shied away from this panel and said, "I'm not drawing that." Basically, this is the feet of 3.5 million bear fanatic pilgrim feet of the fanatic pilgrims. That is crazy. It's almost like each foot has a different personality. It's like its own character. So basically, it looks like nobody could survive that, but we'll find out soon enough that they don't really explain how, but this isn't the end of Corn Belt. So the Freak Brothers escape in this plane, and when they're over Central America, they have to bail out. And they happen to land right near those survivalists that Franklin met in the first issue. That beautiful woman and the survivalists who live in that beautiful village that's hidden in the jungle, also with their Native American allies. Turns out that woman is Pablo Pigasso's daughter, Piggy. And this is where the Sky Farm is. I like this, how the reel for the Sky Farm, the thing that pulls it down from the sky, it's one of those old Indian calendar stones, those giant stones. So it just winds it up. So the Freak Brothers go to work on the Sky Farm. And, of course, the Freak Brothers are back to normal, so they grow some marijuana plants in between the corn, and every night they get stoned. Freddy trades the bomb to one of the Native Americans for some rolling papers. A few days later, I guess the Freak Brothers left so much smoke in the Sky Farm that it's visible. All the smoke is captured in it, so it's not invisible anymore. And who should be down there but Colonel Cornbelt and all the remaining colonels of the world junta. And they drive over there, and they see the Sky Farm. Pablo Picasso is just like, oh, this place is a fortress. We're going to hold them off. So the Freak Brothers just decide to escape up this ladder. Yeah, I forgot to mention that the tether of the Sky Farm is also like this ladder of like clear plastic tubing. And so they're climbing up, trying to get to the Sky Farm. But then the colonels start chasing them. And right then, finally, after all this time, Freddy goes, oh no, I just thought of something. I left the cat locked inside the apartment. After they've been on the road for it feels like years. He just thought about that. So not only are Cornbelt's colonels coming up the ladder, but also Andre the Hyena and his gang. Because those guys are now at each other's throats, kind of. They both want the nuclear bomb. And I get the Freak Brothers. Man, this art is really just incredible. So they're looking for the Freak Brothers everywhere. And they go to the radio shed, and who's in there but Smilin' Mylon? And he's got a Computune Computune 8000 in there. And they all say, we've forgotten how to work one. So the Freak Brothers, Franklin and Freddy, who learned all that stuff, they've already forgotten almost everything. Almost every other panel, they're like, oh, I used to know how to do this, to work this computer. Meanwhile, the Native Americans they've got the bomb, and they're going to set off the bomb to get rid of the elitist exploiters. And this I really didn't understand. I thought they were total allies against the right-wing junta that was down there in El Salvador. But apparently, things weren't so good between them. So now this guy's talking about killing them all. He's going to basically drop the nuclear bomb into this volcano, which is where the sanctuary is located. It's a supposedly dead volcano. Once again, almost all these pages really barely, not even trying to be funny. None of these are even jokes. It's just moving the plot along. Very strange. I mean, it's a really fun, engaging story. I mean, rereading this last night, I was totally into it. I was like, what's going to happen? Because I forgot. I haven't read this in so long. So all of a sudden, the atom bomb is dropped and everything starts rumbling. And they, luckily, the Pegasos, the father and daughter, they escape on these mechanical roadrunners. And then they turn back and they see the volcano. I gotta say, this panel is fucking amazing. Look at that. That is so fucking cool. This is like, I don't know, Corbin or something, or I can't think of anyone else. This is just incredible shit. Colors, artwork. Just oh man, so good. So the giant circular calendar stone is shot into the sky, pulling the Sky Farm with it, because remember, it's got the tether. And all of the bad guys, basically all of the world new era rulers, are all swept up into space, with the exception of Cadet Colonel Pichon, who was too fat to climb the ladder. He's now the ruler, the dictator of life, for life, of all of Central America. A little note there. Once again, look at that beautiful cloud there, the volcano. So, luckily that Smilin' Mylin had a little aircraft, and the Freak Brothers all jump on, and they're rescued. They don't die with everyone else. So he starts telling them about his days in the war. He was in Vietnam. Oh, this is amazing, this little sequence. Totally has nothing to do with the story either. So Smilin' Mylin loved taking drugs in the war. Basically, it sounds like all he did was just do drugs and every now and then go on a mission. So one day he took 25 hits of LSD and went on a bomb run. And he's tripping when he's tripping hard. All of a sudden, these MiG-21s, the Russian planes, come out of the sky, but they're invisible or transparent, piloted by gorgeous Vietnamese women totally nude, all firing candy-colored tracers. And look at this crazy panel. The tracers look like these amazing clockwork geometrical shapes. All this crazy color. That is some nice stuff. And I love this, his face, with all the craziness reflected in his sunglasses. There's like these robotic pterodactyls. It looks like his face is seething. And just the way the panel breaks up in those jagged bits. Oh man, that's good stuff. So then he drops him off at the airport where the story began, outside of San Francisco. And they can't get a taxi back because they need the new currency, because apparently, now that all the bad guys died, were dragged out into space pretty quickly, civilian government was restored. And they say, look like we have a new president, and there's a billboard for Tweedledee. And when they open the door to the apartment, there's a giant cockroach, and Freddy jumps out after it and wrestles it down to the ground. So there's that's this total reference to the weird Computune comic here. And the little capper at the end is that down in Bogota, remember Norbert the Narc was there? He was going to look at the American embassy every day at noon because he overheard the Freak Brothers saying that whenever they got to Bogota, they would meet at the foreign embassy. And he's like an old man. And these two guys are saying, who's the crazy gringo? I don't know. He seems harmless enough, though. He shows up every day at noon and hangs around for an hour or so. And look at Norbert. He's got a giant beard. He's like Rip Van Winkle. Oh, man. What an adventure. But I got to say, guys, the first two issues of this are so much fun, so well written, so funny. So many good jokes. And I don't know what happened in this issue. I really think, I'm not just being silly. I really think Gilbert Shelton maybe was doing too much cocaine at this time. Or speed is more likely, doing meth or something. Because there's so many weird pages in here that are just obsessively composed. Just, they're not even literally trying to be funny. There's not even the setup of a joke anywhere. Very odd. I really would love to find out if Gilbert Shelton ever gave an interview maybe talking about this time in his life, maybe talking about this comic. Because The Idiots Abroad, part 1 through 3, it's one of his classics. I mean, it's well regarded. It's considered like a really great classic in comic books history. But this ending is very weird. Still fun as hell, spellbinding. I mean, it's a great, crazy story. But just as a Freak Brothers story, it's like, huh? It's very strange. So I hope you enjoyed it, though. I enjoyed it, I gotta say. I just, I expect some more yucks from the Freak Brothers. But definitely worth reading, definitely worth owning. God, just for like 3 of those pages alone were just stunningly good. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.